Hi, everybody. Happy Friday. Welcome to Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official vehicle of the New York Football Giants. I am John, luxury vehicle of the New York Giants, pardon me. I am John Schmelk, joined by Paul Dottino. Hopefully it's Elimination Day today. We'll see how that worked later on today at Madison Square Garden. Folks, I am tight as a drum. I will warn you, I'm a little on edge, so if I get a little stippy today, I apologize. I got sick kids at home. I'm sweating Knicks game tonight. I haven't slept much for the last 3 days. Needless to say, I am tight as a drum. Paul, on the other hand, is relaxing, getting ready for a big concert tonight. Not even thinking about the Knicks game. He's ready to rock and roll. And we're ready to go here, Paul. How are you?
I'm okay, John. Not by choice, of course.
No, I don't.
It is what it is. The show tickets were obtained before the schedule came out for the second round of the playoffs. And so I'm going to be keeping track of the score and probably trying to sneak as many looks at the video as I can. And with any luck,
Will the
show
wife be
over.
okay if you're listening to the music but you're watching the game?
Okay. She listened to the show last night.
Oh, no. I didn't get you in trouble, did I?
No, actually, I was surprised this morning when she said, "So how are you going to watch the game on the phone?"
Because I didn't say anything negative. I was careful.
No, and I said, and I was happy that she wasn't angry. And I said, well, I'm kind of going to check the score on Gamecast. And then, depending upon how the game's going, I may sneak a little bit of trying to, pull it up on the phone. And it'll be between my knees. And she's like, all right, well, you better be careful. You don't want them to throw you out. And I was thinking to myself, that's exactly what I want them to do.
I know. Paul's going to put it bright and loud and hold it up in the middle of the auditorium. So if some usher comes over and says, "Sir, you're going to have to leave." Okay.
Sorry.
Paul's speed walking out of the theater.
Where's the nearest exit? Can you please take you there? I know.
You should, in fact, if you really want to be smart about this,
Yes.
you could start a brouhaha before the show even starts. You could accidentally bump into somebody, knock their drink over, get into a little bit of a tussle. You get the pregame ejection. You get to go home. You'll be home by 8:15. Knicks Celtics, let's go.
Yeah. Oh, that would go over really well. Hey, I will say this. I do have confidence in them tonight, and maybe the best thing that I could do is actually not be home watching the game because my stomach will be in knots if I was doing that. So maybe it's better that this works out this way. I'm trying to convince myself that it's the lesser of two evils.
I just don't want to sit for 2 straight days this weekend with Game 7 on Monday.
Oh.
Feeling like I am today. I don't want any part of that.
Nor do
all I want.
Well, yes, I know. Well, right now, see,
Just give me a weekend of hope.
This is completely switched now. It went from the Knicks having nothing to lose and the Celtics being the prohibitive favorites and having everything to lose.
Yes.
Since the Tatum injury, that's now completely flipped. The Knicks going up 3-1 and Tatum
Yes.
being hurt. Now all the pressure is on the Knicks.
Yes.
To kind of do what they need to do.
You're right.
And that's why I'm as tight as a drum. Anyway, we've done a ton of scheduled things here, folks. I don't want to do a ton more of that. We already have 2 calls in the line. I kind of want to do a lot of calls today and just take your calls. But before we get there, you and SciTech had a fun conversation the other day about whether or not the NFL should institute a draft lottery.
Yeah, we talked about it.
And,
I mean,
look, from purely an entertainment standpoint, right, and getting people to watch a TV show, you could do 2 hours on that. The NFL stretches out everything.
yes.
They could easily give you 2 hours prime time. You can even make a part of the combine coverage, right? You get everybody tuned into the combine because you're doing the draft lottery while the combine's going on. You could do a million different things to make this thing work, which could be a lot of fun. So, to me, I would be okay with it. What my big focus is, and we've talked about this, sadly, more than we've wanted to over the past few years, the last thing you want to ask fans to do is want their team to lose. That's the last thing you want. You don't want teams to be incentivized to lose football games. So if they can develop a system, and look, it's not perfect. The NBA has tried to flatten their lottery odds to de-incentivize losing, and it hasn't had the opposite effect, but it certainly hasn't had the intended effect they wanted to. 6 NBA teams were tanking from like November this year. It didn't work. So the NFL is different. Like we've talked about here, it's not the NBA. Teams generally don't tank. That's not the way the NFL works with the physicality of the game, the guys going out there. It's just not a game that's conducive to that sort of approach. It doesn't happen. It doesn't work. But you want to incentivize winning games as much as you can. And if you can, do some type of lottery system to flatten the odds. Because the problem is that you don't want to create categories either, where a team is incentivized to finish in the bottom 6. Or a team is incentivized to finish in the bottom 8 instead of the bottom 10.
It's hard.
It's a very fine line to draw there to make the system work. Because, the NBA, they tried to expand the playoffs with the play-in games and then flatten the odds. But now teams are literally trying not to be in the play-in game
right,
so they get into the draft lottery. So there's always unintended consequences of your actions that you have to worry about. So I'm in favor of any system that can de-incentivize teams from losing games at the end of the year, because that's the last. It's just bad. You don't want fans rooting for their teams to lose. It's a bad look.
It's horrible.
It sucks from a fan standpoint. So that's where I kind of land on it. I don't think it's a huge problem in the NFL, but we've seen it is a problem. We've gotten the calls on the show. So if you can somehow make that less of a problem, I'm all in favor of that.
The bigger problem is the perception that teams should do it. You get that collection of media or fans who want teams to do the tank.
No, look, Paul, I'm going to be honest with you.
And that's horrible.
Yes. But if I could wave a magic... Look, the Giants draft went great. But if I could wave a magic wand and win one less game in 2023 and have the Giants gotten Jaden Daniels, I would do that today, wouldn't you?
I can't think that way.
No, but that's my point. You don't want to have to think that way. But that's the fact of life. That's what it is. Like if you go back and, have the Knicks win, I'll take the Giants out of it. If you want to go back and you could tell me, all right, the Knicks, instead of winning 17 games, they won 16 games and they got Victor Wembanyama, whatever. I know they weren't in that draft lottery, but just to give you an example, right? Of course you would do that. To have 15 years of Victor Wembanyama? Of course you would. But you don't want to be in that situation. That's the point.
Yeah.
And the lottery system makes, and look, to the NBA's credit, their new lottery system, the team with the worst record since they put the new lottery system, it has not gotten the first pick before.
I know.
It's worked that way. So with the NFL really not having that much of a problem in that regard anyway, if you add that in as a further disincentive, maybe you could eliminate that thought at all. But even if there's still a small chance you could get in the lottery, teams might still do it anyway. So I just don't know if there's a solution to the problem, to be honest with you. My solution in the NBA is to have a postseason tournament and those teams play for the first pick in the draft.
Oh, wow. How about that?
So like instead of having, I would eliminate the play-in tournament completely. Instead of that, in the week leading up to the playoffs, you have the draft lottery tournament and you have teams compete for the first pick in the draft. I have a whole system worked out. It would be great.
That's cool.
You can't do that in the NFL.
No.
You're not paying 18, 19 games for teams to compete for the first pick. That's not going to happen. And again, different sport, different games. But again, that would kind of be my goal.
See, the trouble with this is that you're talking about the NBA and the NFL, the only two sports where the whole tanking concept even comes into play. It doesn't come into play in baseball, and it does not come into play in the NHL.
Because you're drafting high school kids that aren't going to be on your team for 5 years.
Same thing with the NHL.
Right.
You're drafting European kids and teenage kids and so forth and so on. So in those two sports, there's no issue whatsoever.
And a superstar in the NBA or a great quarterback in the NFL can single-handedly turn your franchise around.
Yeah,
it's not like that in baseball. I don't watch hockey enough to know, but in baseball, one player doesn't do that.
No. So I mean, it's a evil consequence of the systems that were built in many years ago to say, okay, the teams that have the worst record are going to get the best draft picks. And this has been going on forever and ever and ever.
Which makes sense, by the way, because you want to give that's how you create parity, right? You want to give the worst teams the best pick.
But here's the thing. I never thought about that whole concept. To me, it didn't even reach the bubbling surface, if you will, until the NBA. And it was really, and I mentioned this the other day.
It was Ewing, the Ewing year?
It was Tim Duncan.
Not Ewing in 84?
No, it was
really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
The Spurs, Robinson had gotten hurt. We got a caller who wanted to pawn off the Robinson injury a little bit heavier than a lot of other people did. at that time.
Oh no, the Spurs tanked that year.
The Spurs were not good, but they did tank.
They absolutely tanked. No
Okay.
question about they tanked.
And that was the first time that I ever remember when they went and they got Tim Duncan, and now all of a sudden they're pairing him with the Admiral.
Because David Robinson could have came back that year and they held him out.
Understood.
Correct.
But what I'm saying is that was not a good Spurs team. They knew it, and they had the ability to make sure that they were going to get Tim Duncan, and they did. That's where the whole tanking thing first reached the surface. Up until then, I don't ever remember hearing about any team in any sport wanting to do poorly to enhance their draft pick. I never remember hearing about that. And then when the Tim Duncan thing happened, all of a sudden now there was a spotlight on the NBA and their draft because, let's see how many teams might do this because look how it worked out for the Spurs. And over the course of time, there have been a lot of NBA teams that have done it. It's almost a regular
every year there are
happenstance.
multiple teams that purposely tank. Now, it hasn't worked a ton.
No.
But
And yet in the NFL, I think it's only happened a few times. I won't go into naming names or years or teams. I'm not going to do that. But I could say it's been relatively few times. A much smaller percentage of teams in the NFL do it than they do in the NBA.
I mean, the Patriots sending Drake May at the end of last year.
Like I said, I'm not going to go there, but
They still won the game, though, which is the funny thing, because you never know what happens in the NFL.
it's still not as prevalent in the NFL.
Not
That's
even
the point.
close. No.
That's the point.
Maybe one game at the end of the year. Maybe.
Yeah.
And again, teams don't generally do that because players are going to go out there and they're going to play. You're not just going to sit guys' contracts. They're not guaranteed. It's just much different. It's a different sport. It doesn't happen. And we always say that, guys. Players are not going to tank in the National Football League. That's not how this works.
No.
So I don't think it's a huge problem in the NFL because I don't think it happens much, to be honest with you. But
I don't think it does either.
But you always do. And there's actually interesting, and I'll work this back to something I saw today. Albert Breer's story. The NFL is going to vote the owners next week on the various rule proposals.
Mm-hmm.
One of the proposals they're going to vote on is a change to the playoff seeding format.
Okay.
Where
We've talked about that for a while.
It's just by record.
Mm-hmm.
If a team with a wild card record and a division record have the same record, the division winner would get the tiebreaker advantage there. But it would be just seeded by record, straight up and down. You would reseed after the first round. So the best team would automatically play the worst team. It wouldn't be bracketed per se. It would be reseeded. So that's going to get voted on next week. And I think the argument that the schedule makers made is that, look, this will give teams more incentive not to rest their starters at the end of the year. And they went through a couple examples. Last year, the Texans, winners of the AFC South, but they did not have a very good record.
Mm-hmm.
They were locked into the 4 seed no matter what the last game of the year. But if it was not seeded by division winners,
Okay.
a wild card team or 2 or 3 could have had better records than that.
Okay. Yeah.
So they were playing, they could have dropped as far down as 7 if they would have lost that game. But because they were a division winner, they had nothing to play for.
Okay.
But because if you had the new system and a wild card team could jump a division winner, they would not have been able to rest their players. Or they might have had to go 2 and visit the 2 seed in round 1. So I get that argument. I still like valuing winning the division. I think that's very important. But
Yeah.
I like that part of it. Would you want to give teams incentives to play every game every year because fans are buying tickets to games, they're putting their hard-earned money into it, and you want them to have a good product when they go out to the buildings.
That is a legitimate way to think. I like what you said about that, John, but I have always favored, as you just said a moment ago, you're going to play 6 games in your division based on the way it's set up now with the divisions that we have in the AFC and NFC. And when you have an unbalanced schedule, you're only playing 17 games and you play 6 inside of your division, there should be a reward for that. And if you win your division, sometimes your division's going to be weak. Other times your division's going to be really strong.
And the schedules,
and that does have to matter.
And the schedules within your division are similar.
Yes.
Right? There's only 3 games different from the 17-game schedule.
Right.
So it's fair to rank those teams
much
together
more fair.
because they have similar records.
Much more fair.
You're comparing yourself to a team in a really bad division that may be playing a bad division in the AFC. All of a sudden, their record's going to be better than yours just because of the teams they played, not necessarily the quality of the team.
So I see both sides of that one.
Yes. I like the argument that they're making for it, I think, is the right one.
Well, it's a great idea. I'm not
Right.
sure how you get there, though, to really make it totally equitable, because you're
I don't
going
think-
to
well,
lose the division value.
I think that's the problem. Nothing you do can ever be completely equitable.
No.
There's always
Give and
drawbacks,
take. Give and take.
and positive and minuses to everything. You can't have everything. There's always takeaways and giveaways, and you have to make sacrifices. Nothing's perfect. All right, let's get to the calls. 201-939-4513, 201-939-4513. We're gonna have full lines. We'll keep taking your calls the rest of the show today, folks. A lot of new names too, which I'm excited about. Let's go to Jake in Ohio State country, out in Columbus. Jake, what's going on?
Hey, how's it going, fellas? Thanks for the call.
Nah, thanks for calling in, Jake. What do you got?
So two things around Jackson Dart. The first one, I've been following the NFL for close to 20 years now. I know that's nothing in your ballpark, Paul, but nonetheless.
It's okay.
I have never heard of the SPS predictor thing that has come out.
Oh, yeah.
I have not seen this.
Should people put any stock into that?
All right, well, I'm going to have to ask you guys what that is.
All right. It's a mathematical formula. It's one of the analytics people
Okay.
who have come up with...
What service is this? Where does it come from?
SPS is what I don't...
SPS is the name of the service.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And what it is they basically take a player's college stats, his passing numbers.
The Star Predictor Score Test.
That's it.
Okay.
That's it. And they will interpret the guy's college numbers and say, okay, if he falls within a certain range based on his yardage and his completion percentage and his quarterback rating and his passer rating and his touchdown and interception ratio and all this stuff, they combine all that stuff and they come up with a number. And then the number, and caller, please chime in here if I don't have it correctly, because I didn't spend a lot of time on this. I did see it. And the number can fit into one of three different ranges. One range is, okay, this guy has a chance. It doesn't necessarily tell you he's going to be a great quarterback. What it says is that he has a chance to be if he falls in the highest range. Then if he falls in like the middle range, well, he doesn't have a great chance to be very good, but he could still.
I think it has to do with like fantasy football.
Yeah,
I'm
well,
reading
because
it. It seems to be designed to predict fantasy success. But a lot of times that also will turn into
because
NFL
quarterback
success, too.
numbers usually mean the guy has done very well.
Oh, wow. And Jackson Dart is fourth all-time on that list.
Yeah.
I'm seeing
Yeah.
that right here. Okay.
Yeah. And so
I honestly this is the first I'm hearing of this. I missed this completely. So
I caught up to it about 48 hours ago.
wow, the fact that Paul's ahead of me on an analytics thing makes
because
I'm
I
very
need
dismayed.
to know what to avoid. It's kind of like if you're allergic to bee stings, you need to know to stay away from a hive. You know what I mean? Anyway.
Well, the only reason I ask is because y'all do 500 interviews leading up to the draft and all these people that are in the know and know what's worth what, and I didn't hear anything about it. And now this thing comes out and everyone's saying, oh my God, Jackson Dart's up there with Lamar Jackson, and I just don't want people to get ahead of their skis if this thing isn't worth anything.
Well, I think look. I will only say this: if I read the report correctly from these folks that I saw,
Unfortunately, it is blocked on the Giants' internet network because I'm guessing there's some gambling something involved. With
I'm
Brady
sure there
Ballers.
is. It's fantasy football, so
yeah,
it's got to be.
I can't even go to the website.
But just to give them a little bit of wiggle room here, they're not guaranteeing if a guy has a great SPS score that he's going to be a great player. What they're saying is that there is a floor and a good chance because he's got all of the requisite numbers to potentially be a great player. They're not equating one to the other. They're simply saying, we think he's got a floor to potentially be that way. So they're giving you a little bit of wiggle room there. And quite frankly, when any, quote, analytics service that says they're all based on facts and numbers starts asking for wiggle room, that should kind of make you shake your head.
Well, and
shouldn't
again,
it?
based on what I'm seeing here, Jake, is that it's designed to predict fantasy football stuff. So this is,
Gotcha. Okay.
I would be leery. They don't put, from what I can, again, just based on what I'm reading, I can only read third party stuff because I can't actually go to the website. But it seems like they basically combining a bunch of different metrics, and they put it into some type of regression probably, and they come out with a score based on what a lot of those, composite numbers tell you.
Wouldn't they have to combine like the receivers you have and like the offensive?
That's the thing. Like, that's why it gets very difficult, Pearson.
Analytics are always.
You have to put them in the right context. That's what you have to do.
They're
Correct.
always in a bubble. They have blinders on. Analytics are strictly black and white numbers. And some people will say, well, isn't that great because black and white numbers can be proven?
Hey, look.
Well, here's the problem. There's so much that you've got to take into context in the NFL because it's a spider web, and every strand affects another. So you can't really do that. It's exactly counterproductive to the rationale that makes the game work.
Do I have time to get a second quick question?
Yeah, go ahead. You got it.
Okay. So, John, you had talked to some people about after Halloween, after Thanksgiving, as far as getting Jackson Dart in the lineup. Obviously, this is based on a potential negative scenario with us not doing so well. I wanted to see what we got in him. Seeing the schedule, the first half is certainly a gauntlet. The second half is certainly a gauntlet. We have the hardest strength of schedule, so that's going to happen. What are your thoughts now, seeing the schedule, on when it would be better for him? Kind of looking at after Halloween, we have more road games, which I think honestly could be a benefit because the Giants fans can get the boo birds out pretty quick. But after Thanksgiving, we have the bye to get them ready, and then 4 opponents who don't seem like they might be as difficult as some of the opponents we have on the
3 home
schedule.
games in the last 4, though. You were just talking about benefit of maybe having him on the road. 3 of the last 4 games are home.
Yeah, and I think Giant fans would be patient with Jackson Dart whenever he happens to get on the field. I don't think that would be an issue where they would boo him out of the box, to be honest with you. If they did, that'd be really
I don't think so
stupid
either.
if they did. But I don't think they would. Look, you always want to have a soft landing for the rookie quarterback in their first game. You always do. It's something that coaches always do. You want to get them off to a good start. So, what that looks like, it depends how the season goes and what these other opponents are looking like. I'd avoid teams like the Lions and the Packers. That's for sure. And like the Eagles or 49ers. So those are a lot of really good teams kind of in that mix there. So look, again, I'm very leery to even like put a date or a prediction on this stuff because nobody knows. Russell Wilson could be great. The coaches are going to determine whether or not Jackson Dart is ready and when he's going to go out there. At New England, 12-1 or after the bye, those would be kind of like logical landing points for me based on a softer opponent and what the schedule looks like. But again, it all depends on how Russell Wilson does, Jake. It all depends on how Jackson Dart's doing behind the scenes. I don't want to put a date on this. I'm not going to because that's going to be a decision made by people that have a lot more information than we do. And trying to figure that out now is basically impossible.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate
Be
it.
good.
I'm happy with what the Giants are doing. I appreciate all the work that you guys do, and have a good rest of your day.
Hey, you too, Jake. Great call. Appreciate it. Good stuff. I'm going to have to do some research on this SPS score thing now. This is interesting. So
I wouldn't spend too much time on
I
it.
wouldn't either.
Is it worth it to do a huddle on it?
Maybe. I don't know.
Do you think people will be interested in that?
I don't know the whole fantasy thing. I don't know if we should do that. I don't know.
That's a good question. I don't know about that either. Yeah, good question. I'm going to have to ask people about that. All right, I'll look into that. But I'm off next week, folks, so don't expect anything soon. 201, and it's not happening today. 201-939-4513.
You're not doing anything tonight.
I'm just level setting for everyone out there of what that's going to look like. All right, let's go to Marcus in Arizona. He's up next on Big Blue Kickoff Live. Hey, Marcus.
Hey, what's up, guys? How you doing?
Hi.
Great.
Good. Hey, just a couple things, man. About the draft, whether or not the players work out or not, I think that Joe Shane had a master class of a draft fading back into the first round without giving up anything really but a third and a free third. Whether or not they work out, that was the right move. As far as the schedule, the schedule was hard. Doesn't matter when or where we play. It's year 4, man. They got to be good, right? Like, we got to contend. This is the year of optimism, man. We have a good quarterback. Either way, Daboll does good jobs with them. He'll get the most out of them. We should be competitive. I could see us winning seven games, and I think that saves their job. Looking at the schedule, I think I'm going to go to the Week 2 game in Dallas. because I think that'll be a good game for us to show who we really are. And then my bachelor party will be in Vegas the weekend of week 17.
Nice.
So we better be competitive because I want to go to a game that means something late in the season. So good stuff. I like all the players we brought in the draft. Cam Scadabo's a beast, man. It's going to be fun to watch. Strong work, you guys. Keep up the good work. And, let's just not boo everybody while they're on the field all year long this time. You know, it's got to be hard to go to work and have 1,000 people booing you and telling you suck every day you go to work. So let's be better fans.
Thank you, Marcus.
You said, hold on, you're going to go to the Dallas game and the Raiders game. Do you go to home games too, or no?
He's already gone. That's my fault. Okay. I said thank you.
I was just curious as to the group of fans who are in his section. What is their?
Well, Pearson, hold on. Before you take that call, he mentioned how it must be bad going to work to have you boo every time you come in and people tell you that you stink. I want to curious, what's that like for you, and whether or not that is hard for you to come into work every day and deal with that sort of stuff.
Who is booing me?
Oh, see, he tunes out the boos.
People cheer when I walk in the building.
Very impressive.
All right, let's go to Tim in Charleston. He's up next, and then Rocco, you after that. Tim, what's going on?
Hey, John Paul. Well, I cheer for Pearson, just not for his teams.
Same here.
I think that's
awesome.
a very well designed statement right there.
Lance Meadow, on the other hand. Boo!
Wait a minute. I already threw love out to Lance. Remember, John?
I know. That's why I'm booing him.
Oh, okay. So anyway, three quick things. And also, I'm making plans to get to the game in New Orleans with a friend of mine lady friend of mine who used to play trombone and was the band leader in Dr. John's band several years ago. So she knows the town. I've never been. So anyway, the first thing is on the draft lottery. I don't think we need it. I'm happy with the way it is now. But if they do it, I would say one of two things. One, I know you don't like the brackets, but I don't ever want to see a team with a 500 record end up with a pick in the top three. That's just not right.
Yeah.
So either there are 18 teams that don't make the playoffs, limit it to the bottom 6 teams, and you can figure out what the tiebreaker is in the last one. Or the alternative to that is if you do a full lottery, if you did it with the rule that no team could go up or down more than 4 picks. And that would keep the team with the worst record from being higher than 5 in the draft, and the team with the 18th, the 18th, or just missed the playoffs, can't go higher than 17, 16, 14.
Yeah, the only problem you have with that, Tim.
An interesting way to balance.
Yeah, the only problem you have with that is then teams. Then you have teams that are going to try to get into that bottom 6 or whatever, where you want to draw the line. They're going to try to get into that bottom 6 at the end of the year, and then you might have more teams trying to lose now than before, because you'll have more teams that have a chance at that top pick. When now it might only be 1, 2, or 3, but if you have 6 teams that go in the lottery for it, you might have 10 teams trying to finish in the bottom 6 at the end of the year. This is why it gets very, very tricky.
Yeah, it does.
Well, what about my second thought of limiting it to not dropping or advancing more than 4 picks then?
That's not bad, but again, I think teams will still try to get into that range. So if you can't move up or down more than 4 picks, everyone's going to try to get into the bottom 5, because then you have a chance to get the top overall pick.
Because you have to be plotting that over multiple games, and that really, I don't think the NFL works like that.
I don't think so either. I don't think so either, Tim. But again, you're creating an incentive for something, and
leave it the way it is.
Yes.
Leave it the way it is.
Good. Yeah. Honestly, I think that might be the best idea.
I think they should just leave the damn playoff brackets alone. Everybody loves the playoffs the way they are. Like you said, you win your division, strike the division schedules, and like this year we have the toughest schedule. Next year we play the NFC and AFC South. It's like division winner should have home field first game, or maybe not home field, but they should be seeded as such. And the last thing is a question for you guys. I know it's still up in the air, and we don't know what's going to happen, whether Brian Dable's going to call the plays, where he's going to let Kafka call the plays. But I wonder if you think that this goes into Brian Dable's decision. He's now got a young quarterback to develop from day one. and obviously it seems as if they're really tightly intertwined.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that factors into, like he might say, let Kafka call the plays so that I can spend as much time while the games are in session, even, working with Jackson Dart, getting him prepped, and then, assuming Jackson is the starter next year, he can always go back to calling the plays again with Jackson Dart as his quarterback. Do you think that's something that
Tim,
should figure into his thinking?
I'm going to go a step further. Not only do I believe, like this past week at the rookie camp, when Kafka had the walkie-talkie and he was calling the plays in the 7-on-7s, I don't think there's any doubt that was 100% on Dable's mind, that during this particular practice session or a couple of days that it turned out to be, he wanted to spend every minute that he could with Dart. So it was better to give Kafka the play calling. I absolutely, totally believe that was the case 100%. But I think it's interesting, Dable himself, when he was asked about breaking up snaps during training camp and the preseason, John, you may remember this, he went out of his way to say, look, I also have 2 veterans who are coming into this system new too.
Yeah, you got to teach those guys.
Right. He's like, Wilson and Winston, these guys have been around the league, but they're still learning my system. They're still learning this offense. So those guys need some of his attention as well. He can't just give it all to Dart. And so I think if I'm Brian Dable, and I'm not, but if I were, and I'm trying to consider how all 3 of these guys need to get coached up and need to get better acclimated to what I'm doing, I would try to make as much time as I could and alleviate as many bags as I possibly could off of my plate.
But if he's calling plays, is he naturally in more offensive meetings than he would be if he's not calling plays?
I don't know that. It all depends on how he gets his workflow schedule going.
See, so that's why I think I agree with your argument. I think Tim's argument is good too. I think both of you guys makes a lot of sense. But does Dable think he's closer to the quarterbacks and works with them closer if he's the one calling the plays? I don't know the answer.
Yeah,
to that.
we can't answer that.
And we are not going to get an answer to that either.
No, we will not. No,
and
we will
one
not.
last shout out. Oh, am I gone?
No, you're good. You're with Tim. What do you got?
Oh, one last shout out. It's everyone listening. That Dan Orlovsky huddle. I mean, I sent that to several friends because people see. I listen to all the huddles, but I know everyone doesn't. And that, as I said to my friends, this is a great analysis of Dart's strengths, weaknesses, and his potential development path during year 1. So I encourage anyone who's at least been excited about Jackson Dart and wants to hear more about him to tune into that Giants huddle.
Yeah, and I would say too. I don't know if you watched it. Did you watch the Chase Daniel, Kurt Warner ones too, Tim?
Yes.
Yes.
I watched all of them.
So again, I know I'm with you, Tim. Appreciate the call, and for the fans out there, like great quarterback stuff from those guys. I purposely didn't get any of those guys on. Well, I tried to get Kurt on before the draft, but he was on vacation in Europe for 2 weeks. So once we got him, I ended up grabbing as many of them I could once the Giants picked their quarterback. And it was actually better because I was able to just focus 30 minutes on one guy.
You knew they got him.
If I got 30 minutes with Chase Daniel, I'd have to do like 4 minutes on 6 different guys.
Right.
Not the same. I got to do 20 to 30 minutes with him and Kurt and Dan on one player. So we really dug in deep on Jackson Dart with all 3 of those. You guys should go check them out. Giants YouTube channel, Giants Huddle Podcast, Giants.com/podcast, Giants app. Check them out. Great interviews.
Yep. I think one of the things that's going to be very interesting here, John, and it goes to this whole quarterback thing. Do you have a guess? I haven't come up with one yet as to how many reps, how many quarters, how many snaps each of the quarterbacks will get during the 3 preseason games. I haven't divvied it up yet. But
all right, well, one thing I thought about today.
You can't like
you are playing
not have anybody get none.
You're playing the Patriots week 3, you play them in November. No one's playing that 3rd preseason game. Throw that away. When you play a team in the regular season, you rarely show them anything in a preseason game.
So Tommy DeVito plays against the Patriots?
No, I think Dart will play.
You think Dart?
But I don't think we'll see Wilson. I don't think we'll see Winston.
I agree with that. That is pretty simple.
And
but
I think
how does the rest of it get
any of your
up?
big time players will not play in that Patriots game either.
Yeah, probably not.
That would be surprised. Just again, that's what we've always seen. If you play the team in the regular season, You don't show them
Yeah.
much in the preseason. That's just the way it goes.
I wouldn't mind seeing a first quarter, but again,
I would say
because you could play them for first quarter and just go
I would
totally
think
vanilla.
you're
You could.
getting at least one. I think second preseason game you'll get a full half from Russell Wilson, and he'll play a quarter in preseason game number 1, maybe into the third quarter in preseason game number 2.
And in your mind, Dart only
Winston would
sees
do
games in 3. He
Winston
doesn't
will
see
do
1 and 2.
1 quarter in game 1. Dart and Tommy will split the second half. Game 2, Winston plays the end of the rest of the third quarter, and Dart will finish the game in the fourth.
I won't
then-
hold you to
and
that
then-
because we're still in May.
And then Dart does the first half in game 3, and Tommy maybe will do the second half in game 3.
Yeah. I haven't given it enough thought. I'm really, really curious, though, once we get to late July and training camp. Training camp's supposed to open, by the way, somewhere in that third week of July, as we always know. That, as we see practice and camp. And by the way, here's the other thing. We don't know. No one has said anything, at least that I've heard, about a potential dual practice with any of these teams.
Not heard a thing about
The
it.
Giants, by the way, they're playing Buffalo, the Jets, and the Patriots in the 3 preseason
And again,
games.
it's not going to be the Patriots because you're playing them in the regular season.
Correct.
And the Jets, they've only done one of those before. I'm trying to think. The previous 2 years, Pearson, help me out here. Paul, help me out.
Yeah.
The major joint practices, were those before the first preseason game or between preseason games 1 and 2?
Let's see. Cleveland, when we went to Cleveland,
Let me bring out my
that was
calendar here.
before the opener,
And
wasn't
Detroit came to us last year.
Yeah, was that before the first
Yeah.
preseason game or before the
Oh,
second
man.
preseason game? I think I have it on my calendar here. Let me look
it?
straight.
Yeah.
Let's see. July. No, nothing in July, so it'd have to be August. So it was the Lions last year, Pearson, that came here. That was the first preseason game. All right. The year before, if we go back to 2023, that was, let's see, August 23. Oh, that's what I was looking at. I'm sorry. I got to go back to 22. I got my years messed up here. 22. Let's see. Why are the Giants stuff not on here for? That's silly. It doesn't have me away, so someone must have came here in 22 as well, because that's what I always put on here.
I don't remember a lot about the preseason games, even though I look forward to them every summer. Once they're done, I
When
flush
was the
them.
Jets one?
They never did a full one against the Jets.
Oh, okay.
No, that was just one day, Pearson.
Oh,
Twice
that's
we
right,
had one
that's right,
days with
yeah,
them.
Yeah, so last year it was the first game that they did the major joint practices before. And then the year before, let me just look that up one more time. That was 23. Oh, so I did have that right before. I'm in my own head here. 23, that was when we went to the Lions, correct?
Mhm.
That was also the first preseason game. So my guess is that it would be against the Bills.
I would think it would be Buffalo just because.
And my guess, too, because there's a lot of stuff going on this summer with FIFA and such,
it'll be there.
it'll probably be there.
That's my guess, too. Now, if you folks looked at the Giants wallpaper that the social media department put out with the schedule, and they listed the Bills game as a TBA. They didn't even have a date for that game yet. They do have dates for the Jets game and for the Patriots game. I was curious that maybe the reason that Bills game is not locked in stone yet in terms of the kickoff, I thought maybe that might have to do with the fact that they are potentially discussing.
Yeah, I don't have
Some
I don't
practices.
have a day on that either. That would be,
Yeah.
I think that's and we would probably do the one joint practice with the Jets like we've done the last couple of years.
I could see that.
No, they have a new coach. Maybe they want to do more. I don't know. But that would be a decision Brian Dable and Aaron Glenn would have to
Now,
make.
the last time the Giants and Jets did one, it was down there. But
Correct.
because of what's going on here this summer with the
World Cup.
World Cup club tournament,
Or whatever it is.
I don't know that they would necessarily want to have the joint practices here because of the crowds.
Yeah, we
and
might have to
stuff.
do a lot of traveling this
So-
summer, and that's fine.
My guess is if there is going to be any kind of joint practice, it would probably be Buffalo. I kind of concur with that thought as a higher possibility. But again,
Well, and obviously Brian Dable has a really good relationship with the Bills and Sean
Joe
McDermott
Shane.
and Joe Shane and Brandon Bean. So it makes a lot of sense.
it does. It does. So I'm really curious as we get closer to that point how those snaps are all divvied up. And
Yep.
then I'm willing to make a determination.
I had not thought about the quarterback snap specifically. I just knew that they weren't going to play anyone against the Patriots because that's who you have in the regular season.
Yeah,
But
I get that.
I think what I mapped out, I think makes sense. I'll think about it some more as we get closer, but I think that makes a bit of sense in terms of how you want to map that out. That way you'll get Dart pretty much at least a full game. You'll get Wilson 3+ quarters. You'll get Winston a little bit more than a half. And you'll get Tommy almost a full game. So I think that's not a bad way to do it. 201-939-4513. Rocco on Long Island. Rocco, what's up?
What's going on, guys? What's up, John?
We're good, bro.
Called basically. I haven't spoken to you since the draft,
Okay.
and I just wanted to. I told you John Dart was going to be a first-round pick. I liked him. I'm happy the Giants got him.
Hey, look, we said going in that it was a coin flip who the second quarterback would be, whether it would be Dart or Sanders, with Tyler Shook having kind of that outside shot at it, and it turned out to be Dart.
Yeah, listen, I like him. I'm happy the Giants got him. I thought the deal was good to move up. I know you were big on Shook, but I think at the end of the day, the end of the season, whenever this kid gets his time in, I think the fans will be happy. I liked him in college, and I think he has the tools to play at the next
No, look,
level.
I think Dart is actually, by the way, Rocco, I think Dart's actually the safer player than Shook just because of all the injury stuff and the age issues with Shook. That, to me, is kind of like really a high-risk move there just because of everything around him.
Yeah.
So, look, I think
doubt.
Shook's really good, but Dart has all the talent in the world. If he could figure out all the tough mental stuff and on-the-field processing, instinctual stuff that it requires an NFL quarterback to be good, he can do it.
It's that whole traits
Without
against
doubt.
production thing.
Yeah.
You know, Dart's got more
Without-
production. Shuck has really great traits.
Without a doubt. I also, I've criticized the team with some of the previous drafts, not last year as much. I thought this year they did a good job in picking the players available on the board. It was no-brainers. It was there. It was easy picks. It wasn't who is this guy after the names were called. I felt it was a solid draft. I thought he actually had a solid 7th-round pick. I think the tight end was great value there. I don't even think he's someone that you just look at just traits or special team help. I think he's someone, he can fight for playing time at that position. I think it was actually a steal for a 7th-round pick. The only pick, I know fans are going to go crazy by me saying it. The Scatterbo pick, listen, I like him. I think he's a great running back in college. I have to see it to believe it in the NFL more. It's just a faster, stronger game there, But I was just surprised. I know there was a lot of talk of taking the running back. I think the only one that I heard talking about taking a receiver was you, John. I mean, everyone spoke about a running back. I thought the room was solid. But I'm happy they took Scatterbo. But when they were picking, I was kind of like, Boyles was right there. And I thought that would have been a nice pick and a nice fit to have him and Neighbors and a guy like Slayton on the outside and him and Neighbors, interchanging from inside out. I think it would have been a good look. I mean, either way, I'm happy with Scatterbo, but, play some, real live games in the NFL and see how it works out before I'm, going to jump for joy like some fans are. So that's it, guys. I just want to say thanks for the draft reviews and all that. It's been great. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Rock. Appreciate
Thank
the
you.
call. Good stuff, Rocco. Look, is Scatterbo going to be able to break tackles in the NFL the way he did in college? Probably not at the same rate. Better athletes, bigger players.
Different game.
But he's going to be able to do some of it. And he just runs
Oh,
with
yeah.
a tough style. I think him versus Jalen Royals is actually an interesting conversation. I did have Scatterbo. I think I had Royals as a late second, early third, and I had Scatabo a little bit ahead of him on my big board, but wide receiver is a more valuable position than running back, so that can move things around a little bit. I don't think the Scatabo pick was a need pick. I think that was we love the player. We think he can really help the offense pick. And again, I will maintain this, Rocco, that if the Giants did not trade that 99th pick to move up, I would not have been surprised if that pick ended up being a wide receiver.
I think the one thing that a lot of people are getting lost in when they think about Scatabo, he's not just a bulldozer.
No, he makes people miss in short areas. Yeah.
He has other skills. He can slash. He can cut. He can avoid tackles with much more agility than people are giving him credit for.
Correct.
And, John, we saw this in the minicamp, too. He catches the ball very well. Soft hands. Does a nice job out of the backfield. So he's not just a thumper, per se. He's got other facets that can be used in a diverse offense. So, to me, that's why he was the prime thumper for me in this draft, and I wanted a thumper, and that's the guy I got, but he's a thumper plus is really what he is.
Yeah, he can do a little bit of everything. He's not just a short yardage guy, you know what I mean? So I think that makes a lot of sense. All right, let's go to Vinny in Florida. He's up next on Big Blue Kickoff Live. Hey, Vin.
Hey, how you doing, guys?
We're good.
Hi.
What do you got?
Hey, before I get into what I got, I want to say go New York, go tonight against the Celtics. This
Darn
is
right,
maybe
man.
our biggest game in, I would say, since we won a championship. It's our biggest game because we actually, I'm knocking on wood and not going to say it, but I love this team.
No, I would say biggest game, Vin, in all seriousness, probably since they went to the finals in '99 when they beat the Pacers with the 4-point play. Allen Houston at the shot against the Heat. Like, this game.
Yeah,
and look,
I'll give you that.
And remember, if they lose this game, they still have another shot at it, right? They still have a Game 7. Remember, they beat Miami as an 8 seed in a Game 5 in Miami that year. No game since then has surpassed the importance of that game yet.
I concur.
Given the history of those two franchises together. So this is still second to that one for me.
Yeah, I think tonight's the night. I got to work till 10 o'clock, so I've got my DVR on, and I'm watching it, not checking the news before.
Stay off the phone, Vin. Stay off the phone, bro.
Oh, 100%. I'm going to decline every call that comes in because either way.
So it was funny, Vin, you bring that up. So this happened to me on Saturday. I had to coach my daughter's flag football game, and I assumed someone was going to yell something to me at the game, and I was not going to find out the score. I actually managed to get home without finding out the score. I had to take my smartwatch off. I had to take my phone off. I had to face it down on the thing. I'm starting to watch the game. A million texts are coming in. I'm like, I don't know if they're happy texts. I don't know if they're mad texts. I can't look at them. And I got through the game. And obviously, Game 3, that was not a very good result. Hopefully, the result will be better tonight.
Vinny, where do you live?
I live in St. Augustine, Florida. I'm from New York originally, but St. Augustine, Florida now.
Okay, St. Augustine, Florida. If the if the Knicks should win this game, you might be about a mile and a half outside the range of my voice as I scream. Okay? Maybe. You might be about a mile and a half outside. I don't know.
You might actually hear Paul screaming to get kicked out of the concert so he can go home and watch the game.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, the point I wanted to call was about your discussion regarding tanking.
Yes.
And I just hate the idea of rooting to lose.
Yes.
Thank you, Vinny. Thank you.
And I look at the Giants game that they beat in the Colts last year.
Yep.
And I think karma played, and I'm going to say God brought good to the Giants because of this instead of bad. Because if they lost that game, we would have Cam Ward and who knows who else. Because we lost that game, won that game, we've got Abdul Carter, Jackson Dart, and would we have Alexander? We might have picked out a different defensive tackle in the second rounds because we wouldn't have traded or what have you. But having Abdul Carter is the ultimate karma because we didn't give up and quit on a game.
You know what, Vinny? And let me just throw this out at you. And you're certainly entitled to disagree, but one of the other theories behind the whole tanking thing, right, is that, we're going to get the number 1 pick, and we're going to get the lock, stock, and barrel superstar Hall of Famer who's going to change the franchise around. Well, how many busts have been in the first round or have been first overall picks in the NFL draft. You know, it's not a sure thing. So why would you make yourself totally miserable as a fan, want your team to lose, and then all it really does is give you a chance at drafting a guy who's never played an NFL snap and may turn out to be Jamarcus Russell?
Yep, that's true.
I mean, so like, what did you lose for? Why did you make yourself so miserable when then you wound up putting yourself in purgatory by drafting a number 1 overall bust?
Or you could get Peyton Manning.
You never know.
A thing on Facebook. It's called Giants 366, and that it can't be run by anyone who has any interest in the Giants because they're always rooting for tanking. The season's over after 2 and 3. We go 2 and 4. The season's over. I mean, you guys. I think it's more of a age generational thing. I'm 60. We think differently. Than today's mentality. And I truly believe karma is going to be good for you. If you give it an honest, you try to win and you don't win, you're going to be rewarded. Where if you try to lose on purpose, it's not going to happen. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Vin. I wish that was true, but then you saw the Dallas Mavericks won the NBA draft lottery, so I don't think it works that way.
Well,
just saying.
Let me say this. Remember the year that New Orleans got Zion and the Knicks wound up with R.J. Barrett?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Zion turned out to be an injury-plagued NBA player. Now, I know he's done some good things.
God,
but
when he's healthy, he's good, though.
Yeah, but how's that worked out for them?
I know, you're not wrong. All right, here's an interesting one for you, Paul.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say the Giants, they get the first overall pick. Let's play this out.
Okay. And they took Ward.
Pick Ward.
Okay.
And then they're picking 33rd in round number 2.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to list the players that got picked in the second round. You tell me to stop when you find the player you think the Giants would have picked at 33.
At 33.
Right. You tell me stop. I'm going to list the players taken in the second round. You told me to stop when I find the player the Giants would have taken, in your opinion, okay?
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah.
Carson Schlesinger, Jaden Higgins, Nick Emenwari, Quinshawn Judkins, Jonah Savanea, Travion Henderson, Luther Burden, Tyler Shook, TJ Sanders, Mason Taylor.
Sanders might have been.
All right, I'm going to go a couple more here. Alfred Collins.
Yes.
In the second round?
They might have.
Donovan Ezeraku.
Oh, he would have been a consideration too.
That's what I wanted to get to Ezeraku because I think that's who I would have picked.
Yeah.
JT Tuamalu, Terrence Ferguson, Will Johnson.
It would have been a front
Ariante
seven
Ursary.
Defensive player is who it would have been.
I don't think
there's any doubt in my
mind. To
mind.
me, it's Ezeraku, it's Sanders, and I would not rule out, just because there were reports that he was here on a 30 visit, Quinshawn Judkins. They did pick a running back later, so they wanted a running back,
and it was a power back,
Mm-hmm. So I would not rule out Judkins there. But at my board, so I guess the question is, would you rather have...
My highest guy would have been Sanders.
So the question, would you rather have Carter, Dart, or would you rather have Ward, Ezeraku? You don't have to answer that. I'm just saying that's what it would have looked like.
Yeah, wow.
Which is interesting.
It is.
So you're giving one edge and a quarterback. Which combination would you rather have?
Yeah, wow.
Because Carter's awesome. And
potentially
you think Ward's going to be better than Dart, but you never know.
And Carter will be more versatile than Ezeraku was.
Yeah, I agree with that too. So he's a better player.
Yeah. So there's also the positional flexibility there too. That's a hell of a scale to try to weigh the heaviest side.
And of course, you would have 99 in the second scenario. You wouldn't have 99 in the first scenario because of the trade. But I thought that was interesting little exercise to go through.
I'm definitely saying though it would have been a front seven defensive player. There's no doubt in my mind.
Yes.
Now I know you threw Junkins in there, but I still think it would have been defense.
Yes, I agree with you. I'm with you. All right, let's go to Alex in Philly. He'll wrap us up today. Hi, Alex.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
What's up, man? How are you?
Good. I just wanted to talk quick about the schedule and things like that. I'm actually excited to start week 1 in Washington. I know everyone thinks like Jaden Daniels, but, you know, last year we were a Graham Gano hamstring away from winning that game. And especially, we've had some success in Washington. You know, last year was probably the outlier. We've been doing good in Washington, even when we weren't that good. We've been doing good in Washington, and I just feel like, you know, getting the ball rolling somewhere like that, a familiar foe that we have beat before, could jumpstart the season. And honestly, I don't know. The schedule is what the schedule is. You know, if you're going to be a top team, you're going to play the top teams, right? So it's you're going to play them eventually. You know what I mean? So as far as like the schedule, I see our defense keeping us in a lot of games. I really do. On paper, we do have the talent. Now we just got to see if it meshes together. You know, Shane Bowen has to do his thing. But honestly, I'm looking at the defense right now, and it doesn't have many holes. Doesn't have holes at all, actually. You know, you could argue maybe some depth pieces, or maybe at the linebacker position. But as far as a whole, that defense looks pretty solid right now. As far as like the ingredients for the defense, and I don't know, that gets me excited, man. That's what Giants football is about. You know, we can keep these games close, squeeze out a couple close games, you know, have it come our way. And then I was doing a little research on, like, toughest schedules, you know, teams that had them before. And I seen he didn't have the toughest schedule last year. He had the third toughest. Russell Wilson and the Steelers had the third toughest schedule last year.
Right.
You know, winning 10 games, right? And tough division, we played them as well. You know, that schedule thing is, I don't know, once you get to the games, anything can happen, and all of a sudden your hardest schedule could turn into the easiest schedule.
100%.
So I don't know. I think regardless of how it ends up, I honestly think our defense should be good enough to keep us in games. Now, and
I love your plan, by the way.
To Russell Wilson.
I love your plan, by the way, about being competitive and keeping games close. Now, if the Giants only had Jalen Brunson.
And Alex, appreciate the call, man. Good stuff. Thank you.
Pearson's over there shaking his head again. He can't help himself.
So let me just, I'm off next week.
As long as he doesn't foul out.
20 free throws in the third quarter, something, by the way. I've never seen that one before.
Tell me about it.
Now, the refs were not the reason they lost that game. All the open threes the Celtics hit were. But I've never seen 20 free throws in a quarter before. That was pretty good.
Yeah, got to stop fouling, I guess.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah. I'm sure that's all that was. Just kidding. So two things before I'm off next week.
Yes, John.
You and SciTac and Lance will hold it down for us.
Yes, sir.
Good luck finding topics because there's no OTAs yet. There's not a whole lot going on.
I know.
I've tasked Pearson to help be creative with you guys so you guys can help figure that out. Only one more week before OTAs.
Well, next week is empty, and then the following week.
That's when they come.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's
the first OTA is the day after Memorial.
Right, so it's 2 weeks away.
Yes. Well, no less than that. It's like a week and a half.
Okay, week and a half.
It's a week and a half. I figured you'd be more excited for it to come sooner. I'm trying to get it here sooner.
I'd like it to be tomorrow.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Anyway, two things I want to say. Number one, he talked about the schedule. Let me put it this way. And I've thought about this. We did our schedule review show on FAN last night, which, by the way, you can find on the Giants Huddle podcast feed later on today. I'm not sure if it's up yet. It's only audio. You can check that out.
Mm-hmm.
I know fans are concerned about the schedule. We've been very clear about how tough it is, and the opponents are very good. We've talked about that. Here's the bottom line, folks. If you're going to be a good team, you got to beat good teams.
Yes, sir.
So it's going to be a test. You'll find out exactly where this team is. There's going to be no hiding after the season where, well, you know, we won a bunch of games, but we're not sure how good we are because, you know, didn't play very good teams. That's not going to be the case. You're going to know exactly where you are and what you are after facing this schedule. That's a good thing. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's also going to be important, and we talked about this, where while losses are disappointing, and in the end, wins and losses are all that matters, if you start the year poorly, but you lose those, the games by a combined 12 points, and they're field goal games that go down to the very end, you catch some bad bounces, some bad luck, but you're in position to beat the Commanders, you're in position to beat Dallas, you're in position to beat the Chiefs, and you just happen to come up short because, Patrick Mahomes made some crazy play, or Jaden Daniels has like some 60-yard touchdown run or something like that.
Oh, man.
Or CeeDee Lamb has some ridiculous catch.
I know.
Like, that stuff might happen. Just play well. Just play well. If you play well, you're going to figure out a way to win some of these games, and you're going to find out a lot about this team. And I think that's the most important thing I'll say. Just go out there, play well, try to beat these good teams, and let the chips fall where they may.
You know, one of the things that I know we always look forward to, John, is when the Giants do have those dual practices like last year. We felt really good about the practices against the Lions. And we thought that that was going to kind of give us a good indication as to where things were going to go. It didn't really happen that way.
No, it did not. And,
you know? That's why I hope that they do have them.
Well, again, I don't think
with Buffalo.
They just
I hope they do.
They just didn't get the step up from the quarterback position they needed.
No. But I hope they do against Buffalo, because as much as I'm going to warn people to kind of hold back a bit, I'm telling you now, if they have practices with Buffalo and they go well, I'll probably start getting a little excited.
Okay, so I'll have to calm you down. That's
yes,
fine.
you will.
Second thing I want to say, and I'm still ruminating on this a little bit, so this is a preliminary thought. I'll have more things to say once I'm through with, watching OTAs and minicamp and stuff like that. But, last year I was very much in camp, spread them out and throw it all over the yard to figure out what you got with Daniel Jones. It's not where I'm at this year.
Good.
This is more of a run the ball. Russell Wilson likes running play action. Throw it down the field. You're not thinking of Duncan, though. You're putting the ball down the field to make big
That's
plays.
fine.
Even if your passing volume isn't ridiculously high, I think you want to try to have a very high average depth of target.
It's fine.
You have two good running backs.
Use the word.
You have an offensive line.
Use the word.
You want to run the football.
It starts with a B.
What?
Balance. Have some balance on offense.
Yeah, but I think with your quarterback, that's what you're looking for, right? That's
yes, sir.
How, you don't want Russell Wilson dropping back 50 times. He's going to get sacked too much.
No.
So that's what you're looking for here. I think you want to run a lot of play action. You want to run the ball well to set that play action up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's more, maybe some more 12 personnel. That's more what you want this offense to look like this year with the quarterback room that you have. And look, if the rookie quarterback gets on the field, when the rookie quarterback gets on the field, he didn't run a lot of that under center play action in college.
No, he did
so
not.
So I don't know when he gets under, then you have to shift to more of a shotgun RPO style thing?
Whenever that comes.
Which, by the way, he ran a lot of play action in college. It was just shotgun RPO stuff. It wasn't under center RPO, play action stuff, which is very, very different. So maybe that changes at that point, but I still think you lean into running the ball a lot and you play off of that. And to the caller's point, your defense should be in a position now with all your additions where you keep them in the game. Mm-hmm. Last year, I wasn't nearly as confident in your defense being able to do that, which is one of the reasons I thought you had to open it up a little bit.
I know.
So I think you can adjust your approach a little bit this year, given what you're looking at with talent on both sides of the ball.
I love that you're enjoying my sauce and oregano now. This is really good.
Well, Paul, I don't keep a uniform strategy no matter the team and year like you do. I actually I like to adjust to my personnel.
I know. Hey, again, in all honesty,
no.
it's
we're just joking.
Of course, we're goofing off, but there's no doubt, that there are some things as you try to climb off of the mat to get to respectability. There are some core beliefs and some core foundations that give you a better chance to make those first crawls, if you will. And defense, special teams, run the ball, those are certainly things that will help.
Stop the run.
Though, yeah, those things will have a better chance of getting you to respectability.
Yeah, I'm with you. 100%. All right, before we say goodbye, Paul, Knicks win or lose?
They win.
Pearson, Knicks win or lose? Or Celtics, I should put it this way. Celtics win or lose?
Celtics lose.
I think the Knicks are going to win too. And,
Good look at that. We're all
8 people on ESPN's Get Up said the Knicks are going to win today too.
Did they?
It's not good.
We all agree.
It's not good.
That is good.
Knowing
We're
this,
all
honestly
optimistic.
though, I joke. Knowing this Knicks team, and I do not want this to happen. They'll figure out a way to lose this game, and then they'll win Game 7 in Boston because that's what they do. They just this group needs to do things the most difficult way possible. It's just the way they've been all year. They can't make things easy on themselves.
While the Pacers just sit back and
correct and get healthy and get rested and all that stuff. So that would not shock me at all. I want no part of a Boston Game 7, and I'm curious to see if those Boston role players and non-stars, I shouldn't say role players because Derek White's a really good basketball player.
Mm-hmm. He's just a heck of a shooter.
If they can If they can keep shooting the way they did in Game 5 the last 2 games, it's going to be very difficult. But the Knicks got to figure out how they're playing now without Tatum. The coach has to clean things up. They need to get something out of the guy that's supposed to be their second-best player, Karl Anthony Towns. You got to get something out of the guy that's supposed to be their third-best player in OG Anunoby offensively.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to clean up those open threes on defense. If you can do that, Knicks should win the basketball game. We'll see.
I would gladly trade not seeing a second of this game tonight because I'm stuck in a concert hall for the Knicks to put it away and win it.
And you can watch the replay when you get home if they win, obviously.
That's why I'd be very happy to give up the game because I know I can go home after the concert and find out that the Knicks won and then enjoy myself. And by the way, I won't sleep.
I will just be if they lose tonight, I'm gonna be unpleasant for like the next 2 days. It's gonna be bad. And I have enough other stuff going on at home right now where I do not need this piled on to what's already going on.
Will you sleep either way, Paul?
Yeah, that's a good point.
No.
Gotcha.
No, I won't. I'll either be very angry and be up until 5 in the morning, or I'll be very, very happy and be up till 4:30 in the morning. One way or the other.
What a life.
It is what it is.
I will be there. If anyone wants to say hello, I'll be hanging out in around. Should I give the section? I can give the section, right? No,
you better not.
All right, I'll be up in the 200s, even with one of the baskets. You can work that out if you're there. But it should be fun. I can't wait to go. No, thanks to New Jersey Transit, by the way. I got to drive into the city now for this today.
Yeah, well.
Oh, by the way, if anybody watching, follow me on Twitter. You have a way to get a 3-year-old to take amoxicillin, please send me a tweet. I'm taking tips. It's not been good. Human geyser would be the term I'd use for how he's rejected the amoxicillin. It has not been pleasant.
Oh, my.
There's pink stuff everywhere.
Oh,
Clothes, floor, chairs. You name it. He is. Grant has not been cooperative. It's like a little wildebeest.
I'm sorry.
It's like the human equivalent. You know, like in the zoo when the girls like throwing their feces against the wall. It's pretty much that. Except it's penicillin or amoxicillin. It's not good.
Oh, no, not good.
He's smart. We tried to mix it in yogurt, rejected. Tried to mix it in applesauce. He takes one taste, pushes it away, rejected.
No.
Smart kid.
Wow.
He knows what he likes.
He won't take the bluff. Huh?
I was at my wit's end yesterday. I lost it, and he like freaked out. It was not good.
I'm sorry, man. That's rough. That's rough.
Knicks, give me something to be happy about tonight, please. I'm begging you.
See, but here's the good news.
Yes, what's the good news?
At least
Paul?
he won't.
Besides the fact that I got to eat some pizza for lunch today.
Well, yeah, but he's going to get over his sore throat, and everything's going to be fine. I have to live with the own misery that's inside of my stomach and my head all the time.
Well, hopefully. And by the way, they obviously need Brunson to play an A+ game today, too, which I think he will. All right, folks, the schedule's out, by the way. Go find a season ticket membership. You can take your fan to the next level. Single season tickets, single game tickets, Giants season ticket membership. Catch all the action. Great membership benefits. Stay connected all year round, not just on game days. Giants.com/tickets to get all that information. That's Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the Giants. Thank you for joining us in the Hackensack Meridian Health Podcast Studio. Keep getting better. For Paul Dottino, I'm John Schmelk. I will see you in about 12 days after Memorial Day. Paul and Sytak and Lance will hold it down next week. OTA is then on the way. Thanks
Still
for being with us.
plenty of huddles next week, too.
Oh, yeah, and we have a lot of huddles coming up. We have Baldy coming up on Monday.
Yeah.
A bunch of Baldy breakdowns will be hitting the Giants content to next week as well with all the draft picks. And then we'll start all of our college position coaches for the guys the Giants have drafted. I have 4 of the 7 done, and I'm working on getting the other 3. Hopefully, I won't have to record any at home next week. I might have to. If I do, that's fine. Otherwise, I'll do them when we get back. Bob Papa will join us at some point on the huddle. So all that coming up. Make sure you check it out. For Pearson Butler, for Paul Dottino, I'm John Schmelk. Thanks for being with us. Enjoy your weekend. Go Knicks.